Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this cookbook. This is called the 20th Century Cookbook, published in New York City in 1898. Jam-packed with recipes, and it is a cookbook that is looking to the future. Like it's looking off in the distance and saying this is where we're going, very hopeful. Look what's happening, look where we're going. And the preface sort of outlines this using language of a much earlier time, which is kind of funny in the way that it's phrased. Of late years, cooking has come to be regarded as a science, no less than as an art. And in the preparation of the recipes that we herewith submit, the most scientific methods have been employed. It also goes on to say that it understands that some people may not have the economic means of others, and so where they can, they'd put sort of the more expensive recipe, and then they'd put a second and third recipe below it that are a little more economical for you if you're having trouble. The recipe we're going to do today is called grated apple pie. Now this apple pie, it is definitely related to what some people today would call a Marlborough pie, and yes, I over-enunciated that, Marlborough pie. And so we've done a couple of those over the years on this channel. And the earliest one we've ever done was from a cookbook called The Accomplished Cook, written by Robert May in Oldie, England. The copy that I have is written in 1685, or published in 1685, printed in 1685. It is a great cookbook, but it used a dozen eggs. Today we're just using 3, and I'm separating whites and yolks here because this will be finished with a meringue topper. So, last egg, yolk goes in, sugar goes in, and we whisk that until it's pale. Next, it asks for a 1/4 cup of sweet, thick cream. And a question I get all the time is, what is sweet cream? It is not, absolutely not, 100% absolutely not sweetened cream. In this time period, sweet cream is what we today would just call cream. You go to the grocery store, you buy a carton of cream, and thick cream would be whipping cream. This is 35% butterfat. So that is sweet cream. There's no sugar added. It's not sweetened. They called it sweet cream in order to differentiate it from soured cream, which today we would call sour cream. So language changes over time. The sweet has been dropped from this. It's just called cream now. So I put that in. Asks for the grated rind of 1 small lemon. So I'm going to do probably half of this lemon. That's probably enough. Now, there's optional ingredients, and I'm going to add the optional ingredients. But first, grated apple. My apple's a little bit brown because, well, I grated it about 15 minutes ago and apples oxidize. So that's going to go in. It says that optional would be some grated almond. I'm going to put that in. And some seedless raisins. I'm going to put those in. But you can leave them out. Leave them out if you want to. Not completely necessary. I kind of like that type of cooking. I like this type of recipe. Gives you options. I find, and I've probably said this many times over, I find today that people are too strongly opinionated about what a recipe has to be and how you have to make a recipe. And if you don't do it exactly this one way, it's wrong. And cooking shouldn't be that way. You don't like raisins? Leave them out. You don't like almonds? Leave them out. You like raisins and almonds? Put them in. Maybe you don't want to use raisins, you want to put in currants, which is a raisin anyway, but it's a different type of raisin. Maybe you don't like almonds and you want to put in ground pistachios or some other nut. Make it your own. Take this recipe, play with it a little bit, and do what you want to do. Okay, now I've got a pie tin lined with a rich butter pastry, and we'll fill that with our filling. So this is an 8-inch pie tin. So it's tin. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I've got a pizza stone in the bottom. I find that on these shells where they don't ask you to par bake the shell with such a wet, sloppy filling, that the pizza stone really gives you a great bottom crust. You don't get a soggy bottom crust, especially if you use a tin. If you use a glass plate, all bets are off. Could be a different story completely. The pie's almost baked, so it's time to move on to the meringue and the egg whites. So I've got the 3 egg whites in a copper bowl. I fear that every time I use the copper bowl, I'm going to have to give the same explanation because I see the same comments every time I use it. You don't need a copper bowl to whip egg whites. You don't. But if you ever whip egg whites in a copper bowl, you'll never go back. The egg reacts with the copper. The exact chemical reaction, I'm adding some sugar here. It says to add 6 tablespoons of sugar to the egg whites as you whip them. I'm not going to go into the exact chemical reaction because I'm not fully sure myself. But it stabilizes the egg whites. And it keeps the egg whites from being beaten too far. You can't overbeat them. If you were to beat these in a glass bowl or stainless steel bowl or something like that, you could beat your egg whites to the point where they're so dry and stiff that they separate. And once they separate, there's no coming back. You've ruined them. You can't do that with a copper bowl. And the copper bowl will give you a stabilized egg foam that will stand much longer. It's also much easier to fold into a cake batter if you're folding it into a cake batter. Look how glossy those are. These egg whites are now thick and glossy. They've got a real nice sheen to them. This is a classical stiffly beaten egg white. And they are a little bit thin, drippy, droopy, because there's so much sugar in them. I would not, if I was not following this recipe, there's no way I would put 6 tablespoons of sugar in my meringue. That seems like an awful lot of sugar. So it's time to get the pie out of the oven. Okay, pie's out. And we'll spread the meringue on top. Get it right up to the edge of the pie crust. 6 tablespoons of sugar, too much sugar. I would probably, maybe 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of sugar for that amount of egg white. Now, put this back in the oven until it says brown lightly, so not too much browning. Watch it closely.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends. I thought we were having that grated apple pie.
This is a grated apple pie.
I was expecting it to look more like the grated pineapple pie we had recently.
Yes, but no.
But clearly no.
No.
Oh, wait.
So that grated pineapple pie that we had, the egg whites were whipped.
Not my kitchen.
Ooh.
Interesting. Anyway, let's drop it down. Let's give it a try.
There we go.
Looks like there's raisins too.
Yep.
Almost tastes like a lemon pie.
It does.
Is there lemon in it?
There's lemon in it.
Okay.
If no one said apple, I'd be wondering what are the
chewy bits in my lemon pie?
Yeah. Okay, if you just sat that down in front of me and said, "Here's some pie, Glenn," I'd demolish that.
It's good pie, even though there's raisins.
Even though there's raisins. And it says you can leave the raisins out.
Oh, good thing.
Yes. The pie is nice without them. But if you said, "Glenn, we're having apple pie," and that's what arrived, I'd be like, "Oh, no. I'd be disappointed.
Wait, well, you'd be asking where the apple pie is.
Where's
Like,
the
I
apple
enjoyed
pie?
my lemon pie. Thank you very much.
Where's the
I'd
apple?
like to try the apple.
That is still a really good pie.
Yeah.
traces all the way back.
I wonder if you didn't put the lemon in, what it would taste like.
Yeah, no, you'd get the apples much
Yeah.
more. Yeah. The almond flour that's in there,
Ooh.
again, optional, but it adds some body to the whole thing. I really do think that, like the pineapple pie, if you didn't want a meringue on top, you could whip the egg whites and put them into the filling. It would lighten the filling quite a bit. It'd still be a fantastic pie. But in any event, it goes back to this book in 1685, and you can kind of see how these recipes go out and they change a little bit, and they
And yet somewhere along the line, they just fall out of fashion.
they completely fall out of fashion. But I think that what's interesting in this book, if you watch the one on the grated pineapple pie, you can see how it goes from the apple to a brand new thing.
The pineapple.
The pineapple.
Yeah.
Brand new thing in the United States, canned pineapple.
Well,
Great pie.
Yeah. Yeah, you take what you know, and with something new, you
Sort of
just
adapt
try and
it.
figure out what you can
Yeah.
do with it.
I'd give this one a go. Another winner.
There you go.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.